You're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. We have a whole lot of things lined up for you in this bulletin. We talk about day 13 of Russia's invasion in Ukraine. Also focus on Indian students who have finally been evacuated from Ukraine. We also talk about international flights which will resume on the 27th of March. There's also information on what the petroleum minister has said as far as petrol and diesel prices and whether they're going to continue to rise or not. So all of that is packed in this bulletin. To stay tuned for the entire bulletin. We start off with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But today we begin with some good news because 694 Indian students who were stranded in Sumy have now left to Poltava in buses. Now, these students had been waiting for days to be evacuated. The Foreign Ministry of Ukraine tweeted a video of the evacuation of Sumy students, saying that they call on Russia to agree on other humanitarian corridors in Ukraine. In the meantime, the Indian government has also confirmed that these students are now have now been evacuated and will be back home soon. Also in the news, some terrible news coming in from Sumy itself. The regional prosecutor's office has said in a statement today that at least 21 civilians, including 2 children, were killed in a Russian airstrike on a residential street in Ukraine's northeastern city of Sumy late on Monday. Also in the news, Indian student Harjot Singh was shot in Ukrainian capital Kiev a few days ago, landed at the Hindan Air Base on Monday evening. Now, the 31-year-old student who had received 4 bullets, including one in the chest, was immediately taken to the army hospital in an ambulance from the airport. Also, according to the UN High Commissioner, the number of refugees in Ukraine has now increased to 2 million. Now, Filippo Grandi, who is the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, wrote on Twitter, and I quote, "Today, the outflow of refugees from Ukraine reaches 2 million people, 2 million, end quote." Now, the update came as a new effort to evacuate civilians began Tuesday, especially from Sumy, among other safe corridors. The route out of the eastern city of Sumy was one of the 5 promised by the Russians to offer civilians a way to escape the onslaught that's going on in Ukraine by Russia. Also, according to Kyiv Independent newspaper, Ukraine president has said that Western nations also share the responsibility of the casualties that have happened in Ukraine over the last 13 days. He said, and I quote, "While Russians are to be blamed for the killings, responsibility is shared by those who for 13 days in their Western offices haven't been able to approve an obviously necessary decision, who didn't save our cities from these bombs and missiles, although they can," end quote. Now, also in the news, and this is very crucial information that's come in, energy giant Shell has said that it will stop buying Russian oil and apologized for its purchase of cheap Russian crude at the weekend. Now, there was a lot of criticism over the weekend after Shell purchased a cargo of Russian crude at a discounted price. The company has said, and I quote, "We are acutely aware that our decision last week to purchase a cargo of Russian crude oil was not the right one, and we are sorry," end quote. Now, Russian officials have also interestingly reacted to reports of the West probably or potentially banning oil imports. Russian officials have now warned that if the West does this, then it could result in oil prices doubling more than $300 per barrel and prompt the closure of the main gas pipeline from Russia to Germany. Now, in a televised statement on the state media, Russian Deputy Prime Minister has said it was, and I quote, "absolutely clear that a rejection of Russian oil would lead to catastrophic consequences for the global market. The surge in prices would be unpredictable. It would be $300 per barrel, if not more," end quote. Now, the US has been exploring that these are reports that a potential ban with allies is a way of punishing Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. However, Germany and the Netherlands have rejected this plan on Monday. Japan has now imposed more sanctions. The latest sanctions target 20 Russians, including Deputy Chiefs of Staff for President Vladimir Putin's administration, among others. Now, it also includes 12 Belarusian government officials and business people. Moving away from the story now, in other news, there's a big piece of information that came in from India today. According to an official statement from the Ministry of Civil Aviation, regular international flight operations will resume from the 27th of March. And this is quite significant because it's happening after nearly 2 years. They were suspended from March 23rd, 2020 due to COVID. The ministry noted that as the vaccination coverage has increased globally, the centre has decided to resume commercial international passenger services. An update now on the hijab controversy that's going on in the state of Karnataka. Bengaluru Police Commissioner Kamal Pant has extended prohibitory orders in and around schools and colleges in the city by 2 weeks. That is till the 22nd of March, I beg your pardon. As per the order issued on Monday, any type of gatherings or protests within a 200-meter area of schools, colleges, degree colleges, PU colleges, or other similar educational institutions in Bengaluru is now barred. Also, in an update on the Nawab Malik arrest case, Nawab Malik on Tuesday urged the Bombay High Court to set aside his arrest by the Enforcement Directorate, claiming that it violated his fundamental right to life and liberty. Mr. Malik's counsel, Senior Advocate Amit Desai, told the High Court that NIA was trying to connect the minister with gangster Dawood Ibrahim and cases related to the fugitive, even though his client had nothing to do with them. Now, this case will continue to be heard tomorrow as well. Maharashtra Minister Nawab Malik was arrested on the 23rd of February by the Enforcement Directorate after 7 hours of questioning in a money laundering case linked to Dawood Ibrahim. Now, he has now been sent to judicial custody till the 21st of March. According to a report by the Indian Express, India and China will hold the 15th round of Corps Commander level discussions on March 11th to try and resolve the balance friction areas in eastern Ladakh. Now, the last round of talks, or the last 14 round of talks, have not been successful or have remained mostly inconclusive. Also in the news, on the occasion of International Women's Day, President Ramnath Kovind conferred the Nari Shakti Puraskars to 29 women for 2020 and the year 2021. Now, the awardees are from the fields of entrepreneurship, agriculture, innovation, social work, education, etc. The list includes social entrepreneur Anita Gupta, organic farmer and tribal activist Usha Bain Dinesh Bhai Wasawa, among others. On to environment news, and this comes in from the state of Maharashtra. The Mumbai Railway Vikas Corporation is set to divert 26.5 hectares of forest land across 11 villages in Palghar to expand the existing railway line between Virar and the Haru stations. And according to official documents that have been accessed by the Hindustan Times, the project will lead to the felling of over 25,000 trees and, what's worse, over 24,000 mangroves. Now, compensatory afforestation has also been proposed on 54 hectares of degraded land in 3 nearby villages, as is with any project. But environmentalists have interestingly said that there needs to be a publicly available plan and that the loss of mangroves has to be seen in the context of the project's benefits. Moving on now to business news, and this is an important piece of information that's coming today, where Union Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has said that the government will take a decision on fuel prices, keeping in mind the interest of citizens. Now, this comes amid fears that petrol prices in India will rise due to the crude oil price rise. It's at a 13-year high because of Russia-Ukraine crisis. Now, at a press conference, Mr. Puri has said, and I quote, "Oil prices are determined by global prices. There is a war-like situation in one part of the country. The oil companies will factor that in. We will take decisions in the best interest of our citizens. To say that the government had controlled oil prices due to elections is not correct. We will make sure that our energy requirements are met, end quote. Moving on now, the rupee dipped back to near its all-time low of 77 rupees per dollar today after recoupling slightly to 76.73 rupees earlier in the session. The currency slumped to a record week close of 76.93 rupees on Monday. Moving on to sports news right now, World Cup semi-final playoff between Scotland and Ukraine in Glasgow, which was scheduled to take place on the 24th of March, has now been postponed. Now, this comes after FIFA agreed to a request last week by the Ukrainian Football Association. In the meantime, Russia has been suspended from all international football and will not be able to take part in the scheduled playoff against Poland. And another piece of positive news, apart from the one that we started off with today, this comes in from Hyderabad. Hyderabad has just got its woman police officer to lead a law and order police station in its 175-year-old history. That's a big deal. K. Madhulata has taken charge as a station house officer at Hyderabad's Lalaguda police station in the north zone of the Hyderabad City Police. Now, the appointment was announced by Hyderabad Police Commissioner C.V. Anand on Sunday. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.